Friends, let me ask you something. If your phone battery goes down to 1%, what do? You immediately look for a charger, isn't it? You panic, you rush, you find a way to charge it. But let me ask you this. When your mind is on 1%, when your soul is running empty, when your heart feels drained, how many of us rush to recharge it? We charge our phones daily, but how often do we charge ourselves with knowledge, wisdom, and the remembrance of God? Life is a university where every day is a classroom, every person is a teacher, and every experience is a lesson. If we stop educating ourselves, we stop growing. If we stop growing, we stop living. Remember, God has given us this life not just to survive, but to evolve, to learn, to become wiser, kinder, and more conscious each day. That is the real purpose of education, lifelong, spiritual, and personal growth. Think about this for a moment. Every single day, without fail, we give our body food. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, maybe even a snack in between. Why? Because we know if we don't eat, our body becomes weak, tired, and eventually, it won't function properly. But how many of us pay the same attention to our mind? How many of us make sure to feed our mind every single day with something that strengthens it, refreshes it, and gives it energy? The truth is, just like our body needs food, our mind needs knowledge. Knowledge is the daily nutrition of the mind. When you don't feed your mind with knowledge, it becomes like an empty stomach. It starts craving things that are not healthy. Think about it. When you skip meals for too long, you end up grabbing unhealthy junk food, right? In the same way, when your mind starves, it runs after gossip, negativity, comparison, and meaningless distractions. Just like junk food harms your body, mental junk harms your peace. But when you nourish your mind with good books, inspiring talks, meaningful conversations, reflection on God's wisdom, suddenly your thoughts become healthier, your vision becomes clearer, and your life feels lighter. Let me give you a simple daily life example. Imagine a student preparing for exams. If the student studies every day in small doses, they are confident, calm, and ready. But if the student ignores learning for months and then tries to study the night before the exam, what happens? Stress, panic, anxiety. Life is the same. Every day is a test, and if we are not educating ourselves daily, when challenges come, we panic, we lose control, and we break down. But if we train our mind every day, even for a few minutes, we are prepared, confident, and strong enough to face whatever comes. Now ask yourself honestly, what are you feeding your mind on a daily basis? The news filled with fear, social media filled with comparison, conversations filled with complaints, or are you feeding it wisdom, positivity, knowledge, and truth? Because your life will always reflect what you feed your mind. If you eat unhealthy food, your body shows it. If you consume unhealthy thoughts, your life shows it. Let's take another simple example. Imagine two people stuck in traffic. One person has spent the morning listening to motivational talks, reading something uplifting, and reflecting on gratitude. The other person has spent the morning scrolling through negativity and arguments online. Both are stuck in the same traffic jam, but the first one says, "It's okay, this is a chance for me to practice patience. Maybe I'll listen to some good music or reflect on my goals." The second one says, "Why is this happening to me? This country is terrible, people are useless, my life is a mess." Same situation, but the difference is in what they fed their minds. Knowledge doesn't change your traffic jam, but it changes how you respond to the traffic jam. And that changes your life. We often think knowledge means only education in schools or universities, but real knowledge is not limited to degrees and certificates. Real knowledge is learning how to live wisely, how to handle your emotions, how to manage relationships, how to keep calm in storms, and how to stay connected to God in the busiest of days. Books can teach you mathematics, but life teaches you patience. Teachers can give you formulas, but experiences give you wisdom. And if you want to live a meaningful life, you must keep educating yourself in both ways, through learning and through living. Knowledge is also like exercise for the mind. If you stop exercising your body, your muscles weaken. If you stop exercising your mind, your thoughts weaken. A weak body cannot lift weight, and a weak mind cannot lift challenges. But when you educate yourself daily, your mind becomes sharp, flexible, and resilient. You start seeing opportunities where others see problems. You start finding solutions where others complain. You start seeing God's wisdom in situations where others only see obstacles. And remember, this education is not a one-time thing. Just like you cannot eat once and say, I'm done for life, you cannot learn once and say, I know enough. Learning is daily, lifelong, never-ending. The moment you stop learning, you stop growing. And the moment you start growing, you start dying, inside if not outside. So what can we do practically? Start with small steps. Read even 2 pages of a good book every day. Listen to 5 minutes of a wise talk, instead of 5 minutes of meaningless scrolling. Reflect on one lesson from your day before you sleep. Even small drops of wisdom collected every day will one day become an ocean of knowledge in your life. Most importantly, make your daily education connected to God. Because when knowledge is combined with spirituality, it turns into wisdom. Knowledge tells you how to make a living, but wisdom tells you how to make a life. Knowledge can fill your brain, but wisdom fills your heart, and that is what truly nourishes you. So my friends, never forget this: your body needs daily food, but your mind needs daily wisdom. If you can't go a day without eating, don't go a day without learning. Educate yourself every day, because every day is a gift from God, and the best way to honor this gift is to grow through it. Have you ever noticed that life is full of unexpected teachers? Not the kind who stand in front of a classroom with a chalkboard, but the kind who appear in your life as ordinary people. Friends, strangers, family, colleagues, even people you don't like. Every single person you meet is carrying a lesson that can shape your journey if only you are willing to see it. The question is not whether people are teaching us. The real question is, are we paying attention? Think about it this way. When you were a child, who taught you how to walk? Not a professor, not a school teacher. It was your parents, your elders, and sometimes even just observing others. When you grew older, who taught you kindness? Maybe it was a friend who shared their lunch with you. Who taught you resilience? Maybe it was a person who hurt you, and through the pain you learned how to stand up again. Life is not just about books and classrooms. Life itself is a moving school, and people are walking textbooks filled with lessons. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you are at a grocery store. The cashier smiles at every customer, even though the line is long and people are impatient. That small smile teaches you something powerful. No matter how busy or tired life gets, you can still choose kindness. Or imagine you are walking on the street and a little child drops their ice cream. Instead of crying endlessly, the child looks up, smiles, and moves on quickly. That moment teaches you resilience, the art of letting go and not being stuck on what you've lost. See, even a stranger in passing can become a teacher if your eyes are open. Sometimes, the people who challenge us the most are our greatest teachers. Think about someone in your life who irritates you criticizes you, or misunderstands you. Naturally, you feel upset, but if you reflect, you will realize they are teaching you patience, self-control, and understanding. They are like sandpaper, rough and harsh, but they polish you, smoothen you, and make you shine. Without them, your character would remain untested. Just as gold is refined in fire, your patience and wisdom are refined through difficult people. And then there are people who inspire you without even knowing it. Maybe it's a co-worker who always arrives on time, teaching you discipline. Maybe it's a neighbor who greets you every morning, teaching you the value of connection. Maybe it's a driver who gives way on a crowded road, teaching you humility and consideration. Every person, whether for a second or a lifetime, is holding a lesson from God, placed in your path for your growth. But here is the catch: to see every person as a teacher, you need humility. If you walk around thinking, I know it all, I have nothing to learn, then you will miss life's lessons. But if you carry the attitude of a student, you will keep growing. Think of a glass that is already full. If you pour water into it, nothing will enter. But an empty glass welcomes more. In the same way, an empty, humble mind welcomes learning, while a prideful one rejects it. Daily life is filled with such teachers. Imagine you are on a bus and you see an elderly person standing while you are sitting. If you offer your seat, that elder silently teaches you gratitude, that one day you too will grow old and hope for kindness. If you do not offer your seat, then later regret it, that regret becomes your teacher. Either way, the lesson is delivered. Life never stops teaching, because God never stops sending you situations, people, and experiences to shape your soul. One of the most powerful teachers in life is also pain. But here's the surprising part: pain often comes through people. A friend betrays you, and you learn about trust and boundaries. A loved one leaves, and you learn the depth of your own strength. A colleague competes unfairly, and you learn about perseverance. At first, these people seem like enemies, but in reality, they are disguised teachers. They make you stronger than you would have ever been without them. Even silence from people teaches us. When someone ignores you, it teaches you not to depend too much on others. When someone refuses to answer, it teaches you patience and reflection. When someone supports you quietly without words, it teaches you that love is sometimes action, not speech. So next time you feel frustrated by someone, pause and ask yourself, what lesson is God trying to teach me through this person? You'd be amazed by the answer. The angry driver might be teaching you patience. The lazy co-worker might be teaching you responsibility. The gossiping neighbor might be teaching you discretion. The generous stranger might be teaching you compassion. Life is always whispering lessons through people, but you have to listen carefully. Here's the beauty of this perspective. When you start seeing every person as a teacher, your heart fills with gratitude instead of resentment. You stop blaming and start learning. Instead of asking, why me? You begin asking, what is this teaching me? And that one change in mindset transforms your entire life. At the end of the day, remember this truth: God sends people into our lives for reasons beyond what we can see. Some stay for years, some for moments. Some bring joy, others bring pain. But all bring lessons. And if you can collect these lessons, if you can remain a student of life, then no meeting is wasted, no encounter is meaningless. Every person you meet becomes a page in your book of wisdom, and slowly, day by day, your book becomes richer, deeper, and more inspiring. So my friends, do not just walk through life, learn through life. Do not just meet people, study them, understand them, grow from them. Because every person is a messenger, every soul is a teacher, and every encounter is a class designed for your growth. Stay humble, stay open, stay curious. And remember, the world is your school, and every human being is carrying a lesson from God just for you. Failure. Just the sound of the word makes most people uncomfortable. We are trained to avoid it, to fear it, to hide it. From childhood, we are told that failure means you are not good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough. But let me tell you something today. Failure is not the enemy. Failure is not the end. Failure is a hidden classroom. And every time you fail, life is simply giving you a lesson that no book, no lecture, and no teacher could ever teach you. Failure is education in disguise. Think about how you first learned to walk. Did you stand up on your little legs one day and walk perfectly across the room? Of course not. You fell again and again. You stumbled, you tripped, you cried, but you got up and tried again. And every fall was not a defeat. It was part of the learning. Without those falls, you would never have learned balance. Without those bruises, you would never have discovered strength. The same is true in every stage of life. Failure is not there to stop you. It is there to teach you how to walk stronger. Let me give you a simple daily life example. Imagine a person trying to cook for the first time. They may burn the rice, add too much salt, or undercook the vegetables. At that moment, it feels like failure. But the next time, they remember the mistake and adjust. Slowly, they learn. And one day, they become a great cook. Now, tell me, was the burnt rice really a failure, or was it a teacher? Without it, they would never have learned. Life works in exactly the same way. Every burnt rice moment is simply God's way of teaching you something new. The problem is not failure. The problem is how we look at failure. Most people see it as a punishment, as an insult, as a reason to give up. But wise people see it as feedback, as correction, as redirection. You see, failure is like a mirror. It shows you where you went wrong, but it also shows you how to improve. If you break a mirror because you don't like what you see, you only harm yourself. But if you look carefully, you can fix what needs fixing. That's what failure does. It reflects your actions, your decisions, your weaknesses, and invites you to grow. Think about some of the greatest inventors in history. Thomas Edison, when asked about his many failed attempts to invent the light bulb, famously said, "I didn't fail. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Each failure was simply a step closer to success. If he had stopped after one or two failures, we might still be living in darkness. What does that teach us? That failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. It is a stepping stone, not a roadblock. Now, bring this into your own life. Maybe you tried to start a business and it collapsed. Maybe you invested in a relationship and it broke. Maybe you worked hard for an exam and you didn't pass. In those moments, it feels like the world has ended. But if you pause and ask, what is life trying to teach me here? You will discover that behind the closed door, there is wisdom. The failed business may have taught you planning. The broken relationship may have taught you self-worth. The failed exam may have taught you discipline. None of these experiences are wasted unless you refuse to learn from them. Failure also teaches humility. Success can make us arrogant, but failure reminds us we are human. It reminds us that we need to improve, that we need others, that we need God's guidance. A person who has never failed may look confident on the outside, but inside they are fragile. A person who has failed and learned becomes unshakable because they know they can rise again. That's the real power of failure. It builds resilience, and resilience is worth more than any easy success. Here's another everyday example. Imagine a child learning to ride a bicycle. They fall once, twice, maybe 10 times. Their knees get scratched, their hands hurt, and they want to quit. But with every fall, they adjust their balance. They learn to steer, they discover courage. One day they ride smoothly, and the joy is far greater because of the struggle. Now imagine if the child quit after the first fall. They would never know the freedom of riding. Life is the same. If you quit after one failure, you miss the joy waiting on the other side. Failure is also God's way of protecting you. Sometimes, when something doesn't work out, it is not rejection, it is redirection. You may not get the job you wanted because God has a better opportunity waiting. You may not marry the person you thought was perfect because God is saving you from pain. You may not achieve your plan because God has a greater plan. At first it feels like failure, but later you realize it was guidance. So, my friends, the next time you fail, do not say, "Why me?" Instead say, "Thank you for the lesson." Do not see it as the end. See it as the beginning of something wiser, stronger, and more meaningful. Just as a seed must break before it becomes a tree, you must sometimes break before you grow. Just as clay must go into fire before it becomes strong pottery, you must go through failure before you become strong enough for success. Remember this truth: failure is not there to destroy you. It is there to teach you, shape you, and prepare you. Those who embrace failure as a teacher rise higher than those who fear it. And in the end, when you look back, you will realize that your greatest lessons did not come from your victories, but from your struggles. Failure is not a curse. It is a blessing in disguise, a silent teacher, a hidden education. So never run from failure. Welcome it, learn from it, grow with it. Because failure is not the end of the story, it is the chapter that makes the ending worth reading. Look around you. The world itself is a living, breathing classroom. The trees, the rivers, the sky, the mountains, the animals, even the silence of the night, they are all teachers patiently waiting for us to learn. The trouble is, most of us are so busy with our screens, our schedules, and our struggles that we forget to notice the lessons nature is offering us every single day. If you slow down and pay attention, you will realize that nature is the greatest classroom God has designed, free, open, limitless, and filled with wisdom beyond human imagination. Think about the sun. Every morning, without fail, the sun rises. It doesn't matter if the night was dark, if storms raged, if clouds gathered. Sooner or later, the sun shows up. What does this teach us? Consistency. No matter what yesterday looked like, today is a new beginning. Just like the sun, we too must rise every day, no matter what failures, setbacks, or challenges we faced yesterday. The sun doesn't ask for applause. It doesn't stop shining because no one noticed. It shines because that is its duty. And in that, it teaches us to stay true to our purpose. Now look at rivers. They keep moving, flowing, and finding their way. No matter what obstacles come, a rock, a mountain, a fallen tree, the river doesn't stop. It bends, it curves, it goes around, but it never gives up its flow. Isn't that the perfect example for our lives? Obstacles will always come. Sometimes we can break through them. Sometimes we need to adjust and go around them. But the key lesson is keep moving. A river that stops flowing becomes stagnant, dirty, lifeless. A life that stops moving forward becomes the same. Movement is life, and rivers remind us of that every day. Consider the trees. They stand tall and strong, deeply rooted in the ground, yet always reaching for the sky. They bend with the wind, They shed their leaves in autumn. They endure the cold in winter, and then they bloom again in spring. What are they teaching us? Flexibility, patience, and renewal. Just like trees, we must stand rooted in our values, yet flexible enough to handle storms. We must learn to let go of what no longer serves us, just as trees let go of their leaves. And most importantly, we must remember that no winter lasts forever. Spring always comes. And what about the mountains? They stand tall, majestic, unmoved by storms or seasons. They remind us of stability, strength, and dignity. Life will shake us, but we must learn to stand like mountains, firm, grounded, unshaken in our principles. The mountain doesn't compete with the river or the sky. It simply exists in its own glory. In that, it teaches us to stop comparing and start embracing who we are. Let's not forget the sky. Sometimes it is clear and blue. Sometimes it is stormy and gray. Sometimes filled with stars, sometimes with clouds. But no matter how it changes, the sky always reminds us of perspective. When we worry, our problems feel as big as the sky. But when we look up, we realize how small we are, how vast the universe is, and how temporary our troubles are. The sky teaches us humility. It reminds us that life is bigger than our stress, and that there is always more to see, more to experience, more to dream. Even the smallest creatures are teachers. Ants, for example, are tiny but carry loads many times heavier than their bodies. They never give up. If they fall, they get up and try again. They work together in unity, never complaining, never quitting. From them, we learn perseverance and teamwork. Or look at birds. They wake up early, they sing before they search for food, as if reminding us to start the day with gratitude before chasing our goals. Nature even teaches us silence. Have you ever sat in a quiet garden, by the sea, or in the mountains? The silence of nature is not empty, it is full of meaning. In that silence, your mind slows down, your heart feels lighter, and suddenly, you hear your own thoughts more clearly. In silence, nature teaches us reflection. It reminds us that sometimes the most powerful answers come not from noise, but from stillness. Think about rain. When it falls, it doesn't choose which land to bless. It falls on fertile soil and barren land alike, to giving life wherever it can. What does this teach us? To give without discrimination, to serve without asking, to share kindness without calculating who deserves it. Rain also teaches us patience, for seeds underground need the water before they bloom. In life, many of your efforts will feel hidden, unseen. But just like rain nourishes seeds in silence, your hard work is preparing you for a bloom the world will one day see. Nature also teaches us balance. Day and night, summer and winter, rain and drought, everything is balanced. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing remains unchanging. This is a profound lesson for life. Joy and sorrow, success and failure, gains and losses, they all come and go. If nature accepts change as its rhythm, why do we resist it so much? Most importantly, nature teaches us humility. For all our intelligence, technology, and power, one storm can shut down a city. One earthquake can shake nations. One flood can remind us how small we really are. Nature reminds us of God's greatness, that we are not the masters, but the students. If we live in harmony with it, we learn peace. If we fight it, we suffer. So, my friends, never underestimate the wisdom around you. Do not walk past a tree without learning patience. Do not ignore a river without remembering persistence. Do not see the sun rise without feeling the power of consistency. And do not look at the stars without realizing that life is vast, and you are a small but meaningful part of it. Nature is God's open classroom. It doesn't charge fees, it doesn't close its doors, it doesn't fail you. It only teaches. patiently, endlessly, beautifully. The question is, are we willing to be students? If you can open your eyes and heart to the lessons of nature, you will never feel lost, because the world around you is always guiding you, always reminding you, always educating you. So next time you step outside, don't just pass by. Look, listen, feel. Because nature is speaking, and if you pay attention, it will make you wiser, calmer, and stronger than you ever imagined. Ego is like a locked door. No matter how much wisdom knocks from the outside, it cannot enter unless the door is opened. And what is the key to that door? Humility. Without humility, education becomes impossible. You may sit in classrooms, read thousands of books, meet countless teachers, but if your heart is full of ego, you will walk away empty. Knowledge cannot enter a mind that already believes it knows everything. Think about a glass of water. If the glass is already full and you try to pour more into it, what happens? It overflows and nothing enters. Ego is like that full glass. It convinces you that you already have enough, that you are superior, that you don't need anyone else's wisdom. Humility, on the other hand, is like an empty glass. It is ready to be filled. It says, I am open, I am willing, I am ready to learn. And life, God, and people always pour into an empty glass. Let's take a simple example from daily life. Imagine two students in the same class. One thinks, I already know this. I am smarter than the teacher. I don't need to listen. The other thinks, even if I know some of this, maybe there is something new to learn. At the end of the class, the first student walks away with nothing, while the second one walks away wiser. Not because the teacher gave different lessons, but because humility unlocked the door for one, while ego kept it closed for the other. Ego not only blocks education, it blinds us. It makes us deaf to advice, blind to our mistakes, and resistant to growth. Have you ever met someone who refuses to listen, even when they are wrong? No matter how kindly you correct them, they argue, defend, and insist they are right. That is ego speaking. And here's the irony: the stronger the ego, the weaker the person actually is. Because only a weak mind hides behind arrogance. A strong mind has the courage to say, I don't know, please teach me. In relationships too, ego blocks learning. A husband and wife may argue, both refusing to listen, both wanting to prove they are right. If only one of them chose humility, they would learn from each other and grow together. But when ego dominates, love suffers. The same happens in friendships, workplaces, and families. Ego says, I am right, you are wrong. Humility says, maybe I can learn from you. And in that moment, doors of wisdom open. Look at nature, it is filled with humility. The tree bends to give us fruit. The river lowers itself to flow and give life. Clouds lower to bring rain. The sun shines for everyone without pride. If nature itself operates with humility, why do we humans, who depend on nature for survival, act with ego? Think about the greatest masters, saints, and wise people of the world. Their common quality was not arrogance, but humility. They never said, I know it all. Instead, they said, I am still a student. That is why they kept learning, kept growing, and kept inspiring. The wisest people are those who act like lifelong learners. The moment you say, I know everything, you have closed the door to growth. Even in daily life, humility creates opportunities. Imagine a young employee at work. If they are humble, they listen to seniors, accept feedback, and improve. Within a few years, they rise. Another employee, full of ego, ignores advice, thinks they know better, and resists correction. Years later, they remain stuck. Not because of lack of intelligence, but because ego blocked their education. Ego is also dangerous because it creates distance between people. Have you noticed that arrogant people often end up lonely? Why? Because no one likes to be around someone who never listens, never admits mistakes, and always wants to dominate. But humble people attract others. They create an environment of comfort, learning, and respect. That is why humility is not just a personal quality, it is a social strength. Now ask yourself, how many opportunities have we missed because of ego? How many lessons did we ignore because they came from someone younger, less educated, or different from us? Sometimes the best wisdom comes from unexpected places. A child's innocence, a worker's honesty, a stranger's kindness. But if our ego says, "What can I learn from them?" then we walk away empty. Humility allows us to say, "Everyone knows something I don't. Let me learn." Daily life is full of such examples. If you get lost while driving, ego says, "I don't need to ask anyone for directions. I will figure it out." And you waste time. Humility says, "Let me ask, let me learn," and you save time. Ego wastes energy, humility saves energy. Even failure, as we spoke about earlier, cannot teach a person with ego. Because ego blames others, avoids responsibility, and refuses correction. But humility accepts mistakes, reflects on them, and grows. That is why humble people rise higher, not because life is easier for them, but because they learn faster. At the heart of it, humility is not weakness, it is strength. It takes strength to admit you don't know. It takes courage to say, "Teach me." It takes wisdom to accept correction. Ego is easy, but humility is powerful. Ego may give you pride for a moment, but humility gives you growth for a lifetime. So, my friends, if you want true education, you must drop the weight of ego. Ego blocks wisdom like a closed fist cannot hold anything new. Open your mind, open your heart, remain a student of life. No matter how high you rise, remember there is always more to learn. And the day you stop learning, you stop living. Stay humble, because humility is the key that unlocks the treasure of wisdom. And once unlocked, that treasure will guide you, strengthen you, and illuminate your life in ways ego never can. Knowledge without action is like a book that is never opened, or like a seed that is never planted. You may carry it with you, but it produces no growth, no fruit, no transformation. Too many of us spend our lives collecting information, memorizing quotes, reading books, listening to talks, attending seminars. But if we do not apply even one lesson in our daily lives, then all that knowledge is nothing more than decoration for the mind. Real education is not about how much you know, but about how much you live by what you know. Think of a farmer. He may own the best seeds in the world, seeds of wheat, rice, or fruit. But if he keeps those seeds locked in a bag year after year, what happens? Nothing. The seeds may be precious, but they are wasted. The farmer's land remains barren. But the moment he plants those seeds, waters them, and nurtures them, they begin to grow, multiply, and give fruit. Knowledge works the same way. If you only collect it, it stays lifeless in your mind. But if you apply it, it grows, it multiplies, and it transforms your life and the lives of others. Let's take a simple example from daily life. Imagine a person who reads 10 books about health and fitness. They know everything: what to eat, what to avoid, how to exercise, how to stay fit. They could even lecture others on nutrition. But if they never actually change their diet, if they never move their body, then all that knowledge stays in their head while their body remains unhealthy. Compare that with someone who may have read only one small article about walking daily, but applies it consistently. That person ends up healthier, stronger, and happier. Why? because they acted on their knowledge. This is the difference between information and transformation. Information fills your mind, transformation shapes your life, and the bridge between the two is action. Without action, knowledge is powerless. With action, even a little knowledge becomes powerful. Have you ever noticed that sometimes children teach us more than adults? Why is that? Because children may not have much knowledge, but they apply what they know. If a child learns about kindness, they show it immediately. They share their toy, they hug a friend, they forgive quickly. Adults, on the other hand, may know hundreds of lessons about kindness, but still struggle to apply even one. It is not the size of your knowledge that matters, it is the sincerity of your application. In relationships too, this truth applies. People often know what makes relationships strong: communication, trust, respect, patience. But knowing is not enough. If you don't practice respect daily, if you don't apply patience in moments of anger, then what good is the knowledge? A wise person once said, "Knowledge is like paint. It doesn't do anything until you apply it." A wall may remain dull forever unless the paint is used. Similarly, your life may remain dull unless you use the wisdom you already carry. One of the greatest mistakes people make is waiting for the right time to apply knowledge. They say, "One day I'll start living healthier. One day I'll practice gratitude. One day I'll change my habits." But one day never comes. The truth is, every day is the right day to apply what you know. Even small actions count. If you know the importance of gratitude, start by saying, "Thank you," today.